Hi everyone, I'm Jeff Bargiel, and I'll be teaching you about your 15-second pitch. So we will be discussing why, when, and how to develop your 15-second pitch. Your first 15 seconds can hook your audience, present yourself as professional, and message your brand consistently. We pitch all the time. Every time somebody asks you, so what do you do? And when it's all been a presentation or a conversation, we're 5 minutes in and we still don't know what the main reason we are there, and we've lost interest. The best how-to videos now out there are mostly have a structure where they start with a 15-second pitch. For example, this video will teach you about how to insert your topic you're caring about. So while useful in everyday life, your 15-second pitch also is extremely useful in business and entrepreneurship, your classes, all that sort of thing. The stakes are much higher in a formal pitch or presentation, and the result is critical, for example, such as a sales call or fundraising pitch. So we'll be talking how to do that and why we'll be doing it. Oh, and I'm the founder of Toasti. Toasti is a company that makes personal heating products, like a heated yoga mat that keeps you warm and toasty all winter long, whether you're exercising, treating body aches, or just trying to keep warm. So, why is the most important part to start with. So your 15-second pitch is about your audience, you, and your employees. We do this to capture interest, present yourself as confident and professional, and have your employees, and I'll just broadly say here, team members in general, for delivering your message consistently across all platforms. So starting with your audience. Reminder that, in other words, your audience, what's really important here is understanding that your audience are the ones that are going to be receiving your communication. It's what the listener does. This is coming from Peter Drucker, a big business guru. Working backwards, first we need to know who is the audience and what it is that they know. Then we need to communicate in such a way that the audience receives what it is that we want them to receive. So as the comic shows here, if you're somebody out there talking about my new F4330, some folks will be thinking about a Ferrari, some folks will be talking about Ford F-150. So, okay. So, what do we see in this picture? The first thing that comes to mind is that it's your lizard brain checking in. And your lizard brain is going to do a few things first. It's going to crave, sorry, I'm having a lot of problems with the technology here for a second. Back, there we go. Okay, our brains crave meaning before detail. They want to look for things like, will it hurt? Will it help? They're looking to go away from pain and towards pleasure. Should I run? Should I fight? Should I eat? Should I mate? Or should I stay? And generally speaking, you have about 15 seconds to do that with the lizard brain. Okay, so to get the lizard brain to say, oh, they have something that will guide me towards pleasure or away from pain. So how do we pique the lizard brain's interest? We do it with simplicity, clarity, and focus. We're trying to stay within the rules of the lizard brain. An excellent technique, forcing creativity, is to remember that we have rules in mind here. And setting constraints like 15 seconds forces you to get creative and deliberate with every word. For example, the famous quote, I would have written less, but I didn't have enough time. One of the other rules of simplicity and clarity and focus is the rule of 3. So our brain only has the capacity to hold maybe 3, maybe 4 things at most. And there's a lot of fun magic about the rule of 3. For example, the 3s are in the air. We hear things like past, present, and future, bene vidi vici, why this, why now, why you, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is a very grandiose and very symmetrical thing that our brain likes to pick up on. Next thing is that the 3s kind of give you rhythm. Ready, set, go, lights, camera, action, Huey, Dewey, Louie, reduce, reuse, recycle. Our product is fast, easy, and cost effective. And finally, the 3s are the smallest number that can have complexity. So our brains remember meaning before detail. We only have the capacity for 3. Keep it kind of in that ballpark, because if you start stepping above 3, you're going to start stepping into complex territory. So things to remember there: 15 seconds and the rules of 3. Next, why should you be trying to develop your pitch? Well, we are trying to do a few things here. First and foremost, you've made conscious decisions about what is important to you and your brand. You'll be certain about your words and stand behind your brand, thus you'll present as confident and professional. And finally, what about your team? The big thing for your team here is thinking about consistency and helping your team in guidance. For you and your employees, or I'll just say team in general, it means you're always delivering the same message across all platforms. When they know the company message, they know how to use it for both external communication and for internal guidance of their work. For example, Southwest Airlines had the tagline, "The low-cost airline." So when a team member was thinking about how they should relate their work to the company's overall goal, they can always go back to the low-cost airline to structure, should I be focused on things that are luxury? Should I be focusing on things that are low cost and deliver our company's mission? And it's going to help over and over again if you're always repeating this message consistently, because people need to be told what you're going to tell them, you need to tell them, and you need to tell them what you told them. All right. So when should you be talking about your 15-second pitch? Obviously, it's going to be in the first 15 seconds, but I'm here to more emphasize things like when. One of those big things is to not waste that first 15 seconds. Things you probably should not be doing when you first stand up to give a presentation or pitch are say things like, "Thank you everyone for being here. My name is," and imagine if you will. You know, these sorts of details are already wasting those precious seconds, and it's not putting your most important details first. It's 2020. We don't really care too much about you so much as we care about what you have for me. So things like your name and stuff like that can come later. You also see that whenever you're watching really good YouTube videos, generally speaking, they're all going to start with that structure of, "Hi, we are here to learn about X topic today." And then they start going into, "My name is, please subscribe to our channel," all that sort of stuff. So most important details first. Okay, if you're in a more of a formal setting and you're actually giving a presentation, again, the 15 seconds comes first, but the important thing here is I just want to show you a tool called the Pitch Canvas. So in the Pitch Canvas, again, they state right up front that the first thing you should be opening with is your simple pitch statement. You should not be opening here with your problem statement. You should not be opening here with a personal introduction, because all that stuff can come later. I just want to know right up front what it is that you're going to talk about and make me care. Okay, so we're going to take a little step here, and we're going to watch a video by Carmine Gallo on a tool called the Message Map that'll give a little bit of context for how you can help develop your 15-second pitch. Give me a second here.
I'm going to pitch anything in 15 seconds. We're going to do so with the help of a great tool called the Message Map. A message map is the visual story on one page. So you're going to need a notepad, a tablet computer, or a good old-fashioned whiteboard. And we're also going to use the example of a real company called Lush. Lush is a global soap store. I believe they're in about 45 countries. They make fantastic handmade fresh soap. Ah, that lemon smells great. I don't have any financial interest in this company, but I know their messaging really, really well. I've talked to the founders before, and in order to create a really good message map, you got to know the story. So let's start with step one, creating what I call a Twitter-friendly headline. The Twitter-friendly headline is the one overarching message that you're trying to communicate to your customer, the one thing you want people to know about your brand or your product. I'm going to be taking the liberty of filling this out. Lush makes handmade soaps and cosmetics. So again, based on my understanding and my understanding of the message, I think that's the one thing they want you to know. Lush makes handmade soaps and cosmetics. If that's all you know, it also fits well within a Twitter post of 140 characters, so keep it short. But now let's fill in the rest of the message map with 3 or at most 4 supporting points. So again, based on what I understand of their messaging so far, I would say fresh is very important to them. And we'll talk about that in a second. Fresh. The other sub-point or supporting point I would make is environmentally, and I'll shorten it, environmentally friendly. And the third point is ethical campaigns. They support a lot of ethical campaigns globally and in their various communities where the locations are held. So Lush makes handmade soaps and cosmetics. There's 3 reinforcing points. They're fresh, they're environmentally friendly, and they support ethical campaigns. Now let's see how this would work out in the real world. I'm going to use a stopwatch for this. Let's assume, hypothetically, customer walks into a Lush store. A sales associate might say something like this. Hi, welcome to Lush. We make handmade soaps and cosmetics. Everything you see in the store is fresh, it's environmentally friendly, and part of the proceeds go to support ethical campaigns in our community. Take a look around, enjoy yourself. 15 seconds. In 15 seconds, I gave you the broad story. If that's all you know about Lush, this actually tells you quite a bit. But now let's go one step further. Let's extend the conversation somewhat, maybe to a 30-second pitch. You're going to have to support these points for a longer conversation. So under fresh, you might add just a couple of bullet points, like manufactured daily, shipped the next day. Under environmentally friendly, you can put something like unpackaged, so that the plastic doesn't end up in landfills. Or you might put ingredients not tested on animals. These sub-points, the supporting points for each of your 3 key messages, need to be very specific. They need to be examples, data, statistics, or even stories. And under ethical campaigns, you might add 1 or 2 of the campaigns that the Lush brand supports, either globally or locally in communities. So there you go. This is a message map. It is one of the most powerful tools in communication. It works each and every time, even for very complex products or concepts. I know because I've worked with leaders who have incredibly complex products to talk about or to sell. In fact, the more complex your product, the more you need the message map. Because you, as a leader, you need to communicate the benefits of your product in a way that is simple, clear, and concise. The message map is your winning ticket.
So I could have taught that, but Carmine already does it in a very concise format. So let's take a look a little bit at this is Lush's message map. And let's dig into a little bit some of the details that Carmine didn't really specify here. But one of them is, for example, that he's using very strong, direct action verbs. These things are, and he's using a lot of descriptive, concrete adjectives and imagery. All the elements are positive, and everything here has to be core to the business. This also helps with the lizard brain a little bit because the lizard brain lives in the real world. It's used to living in forests and jungles and stuff like that. And that concrete imagery helps bring up pictures in the mind and helps us actually experience and feel what it is that company wants us to feel. So try to use those very direct action verbs like makes, sells, those sorts of things. And then the concrete imagery, just tell me exactly what you do in very, very few words. Things that is not here that we see a lot are things like flowery and bloated language. He's not wasting any time on things that don't mean anything to anybody. The words like world-class don't mean anything. Words like disruptive mean absolutely nothing nowadays. There's also no excessive detail. There's also no numbers or minor points. So things that the lizard brain's not really going to care about or pick up on at this point are left out. And so when you walk away from this, it's more of a feeling where somebody goes, oh, I'm actually interested in what it is you're talking about. And then sometimes at the end of that 15 seconds, he didn't clarify it here, but there's kind of a call to action where at the end of it, he says, so look around our store and let me know if there's anything else that I can help you with. That's a little bit of a call to action, and it can be situation dependent. Obviously, if you're giving a formal pitch or a presentation, you're not going to have much of a call to action at the end of your 15 seconds, except that, hey, let's going to continue on with the rest of the formal presentation. So we're kind of at the end here of the my presentation part, but I want to leave you with a few takeaways. So first of all, there's that 15 seconds. That's utterly important. You could really try to get it down to 1 or 2 sentences at the most. You're going to use that concrete imagery, that strong, direct communication style to really hit home those 15 seconds. You're doing this because, most importantly, because of your audience, so that they hear and are communicated what it is you are trying to communicate to them. They walk away with the message that you wanted them to walk away with. You're doing it for you so that you come across as confident and professional. And finally, you're doing it for your team. So you're giving them clear direction, both for external communication and for internal guidance. One of the rules that we can use for developing our 15-second pitch is the rule of 3. Try to have no more than 3 descriptors or 3 supporting elements. If you want to go even deeper into the first 3 elements, generally speaking, you can do that. Just remember that you might be sacrificing a little bit of attention, or you need to make sure that your audience is fully engaged at that point. Oftentimes, when you're doing this in a very informal networking situation where somebody just says, so what do? You can give them those quick little, few things that you do. And then oftentimes somebody go, oh, that's very interesting. Tell me more about that. So you're actually giving them a chance for them to prompt you to tell them more. And at that point, you know that they are engaged. And finally, using the tool of a message map. It's you're trying to use, again, the very strong, direct, and concrete language, avoiding any bloat or any flowery language that doesn't really do anything but distract your audience. Finally, there are some resources here that you can go back for. There's the message map, of course, that we just watched with Carmine Gallo. There are lots of other folks out there that are doing message maps, and Carmine himself even has more classes and more presentations where you can dig in a little bit more on some of the details. There's the pitch canvas. So that's a very specific formal setup whenever you're doing a fundraising pitch. But again, at the beginning of that, they want you to open that 15-second pitch, not with talking about the pain point. We want to know what it is that the product that we're here to talk about is first, and what do you want from your audience. So generally speaking, in that first 1 second, your first 15 seconds, you're gonna say stuff like, Toasti makes personal heating products, etc. And we are here to raise $1 million or whatever it is. And finally, the last resource I have here is writing the perfect blurb. So this is not in a pitch type setting where a visual or vocal type of pitch situation. This is more of a written, where you see little blurbs, but the same points remain. You're trying to hook the audience and trying to use very interesting and concrete imagery to get people to keep reading on if you're in a blog or a more of a written style communication. So I hope everybody enjoyed everything. Again, my name is Jeff Bargiel, and I'm the CEO of Toasti. And we still have a few minutes, so if anybody has any questions, we can open up the platform. So let's see if I'm doing this right.
Hi, Jeff. Can you hear me? Awesome.
Yes.
So thank you for your presentation. I just have a quick question about, authenticity. So sometimes somebody pitches me, you say, hi, I'm Natasha, and they pitch you right away. And it feels so salesy, like they scripted it out and they say the exact same thing to everybody they meet. And can you give us some tips to make it feel more organic or conversational? If you're just kind of maybe giving the pitch in like a network setting or like a informal kind of setting.
That's a good point. So if you're going to be doing that a little bit more authentically, I think maybe you're not going to be talking so much about points about what your product necessarily does from a direct standpoint, but maybe a little bit more focusing on things like the environmentally friendly campaign. If we're going back to the Lush example, I mean, it's going to be kind of situation dependent, right? So you're going to be Yeah, that's a very good
Okay,
question.
let's put you inside a network setting, and I'm like, hi, Jeff, what do you do? How do you answer that?
Well, so in those cases, I actually do have a pitch ready. I mean, so, you know, because we are talking about a little bit, what do you do? And I think in those situations, everybody kind of expects it a little bit. So, you know, because you're in a situation where that is kind of expected, maybe, I mean, this is going to sound a little backwards, but practice, there's that, practicing means that not only do you have it ready, but it also means that you can deliver it more authentically or naturally. So there's going to be that, I practice my pitches, especially for fundraising, so many times that it just rolls off my tongue too fast. And it does sound very pitchy. So I actually had to keep practicing it. Then once I got the words down and memorized, then the next step was slowing it down and crafting the delivery. I think actors kind of do the same thing. First, you're just trying to get past the rote memorization, and then you're practicing it for, you know, emotion and you know, conveyance and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Does that help? Sure. And any other questions, you guys can step up to be in the moderator panel to ask it directly or type away. Let me ask you all the question. Did you find it useful? Or what was the one thing that you learned from the presentation? Hi, you're live. What's your question or comment?
I'm so sorry. Thank you. I think it was really helpful, especially the message map, kind of consolidating your brand and just what the main factors that make up kind of your value proposition. I think that was very helpful. I haven't encountered that sort of like planning and organization before. What I was going to ask is, in the past when I've learn about different ways to kind of structure your pitch. There are kind of more technical or more like problem based, like this is a problem and this is what I'm doing to solve it, versus kind of telling a story. Do you have any things about where like each might be more effective, or in general, kind of what is the more effective approach than formatting your longer pitch?
So there, you're breaking up a little bit, so I think I think I heard everything you're saying. But basically, how do we? You've been taught how to do pitches before, where you talked about the problem and solution statement and tell a little bit story. Yeah, so that stuff is all still really, really important, and that's probably going to be the thing that's going to come next. And in fact, when we did that when we talked about the in the pitch canvas. Go back to that real quick. There we go. In the pitch canvas, all the discussion there about the pain and the gain, or you know, your problem solution statement, that's all still going to be in there, but it's going to come right after you do the 15 seconds. And again, the reason why we structure this is because when folks start going into the pain too quickly, we just lose what it is that we're actually here to talk about. And so that 15 seconds is really just a little bit of a prompt to tell folks, you know, what it is that they're here, what they're going to hear. And then I very quickly would go back to the traditional problem solution statement. A lot of little bit older techniques for doing pitches focus more on delivering that what is your problem first. And that's the way that I learned when I was at Case many years ago. So, but it's just been a little bit updated since then. It's because we just noticed that people were getting lost. Okay. So, so just again, very quickly, just tell us what is it you're doing and why you're here. And then you can see in the pitch canvas that all of those things come later. Everything else you've been taught about how to do a formal pitch is in
Yeah,
there.
that makes sense. Thank you for that.
Sure, you're welcome. So we got a couple of questions here, or a couple comments that some of the things they learned best were cut the fluff language. Yeah, you see that on one. I also do a lot of grant writing, and I work with a lot of, I'm a scientist myself, but I also work with a lot of scientists, and I've helped raise $60 million in grant funding over the years. And that's one of the first things I always have to deal with is that that folks come in here thinking they need to have all that really fluffy language to build it up and prop it up. And it really doesn't do anything. I've also been a grant reviewer. And when I read that stuff, it's so distracting. Just, get me concrete, fewer words, get me down to what it is that you want me to know. Next comment we had that they learned is I think the idea of a call to action is very helpful. It's also something that's forgotten a lot. You're telling everybody about, everything about your product and the market and your investment, your traction, your business model, all that sort of stuff. And at the end, or at the end of even at the end of your 15-second pitch, we forget to say what it is you want somebody to do next. And so oftentimes they're left hanging, especially if you're in like an informal setting, or we're just trying to do a little bit of networking and stuff like that. So just reminder at the end that people like to be prompt with, is there anything else I can tell you? Anything else I can help you with? Come back to me. What did you learn? Those sorts of things. So it just gives people prompts on what they should be doing next. Question coming, would you recommend working as a team to develop a message map for an organization, or do it individually and come together? So that's a very good question. So I usually do this presentation as an hour-long workshop, where we spend the first 20 minutes going over the rules, and then we break out into workshops. I generally recommend starting as individuals and just brainstorming. How long you do that can be up to you, but generally speaking, you can read the room and see when people are done coming up with their own ideas, and then coming together as a group and kind of putting that all up on the wall and brainstorming, hearing everybody's ideas, because different folks are going to come with different perspectives when you're talking about your company's pitch session, your message map. Some folks will be coming from marketing, so they're going to be very customer and communication directed. Some folks might be coming from engineering, so they're going to be very focused on the development and the technical prowess. And management might have a different perspective. HR might have a different perspective. And so I've just found that message maps overall tend to be more powerful when you start as a group start as individuals and then come back together as a group. Question came in, for your investor pitches, what helped you sell your product, you as a partner and your company as a whole? So if you're doing an investor pitch, generally speaking, you're going to have one, maybe two people up on stage. If you start getting more into two, it just starts becoming really distracting for the audience. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a presentation where the different individuals are trying to pass off slides to each other and say like, oh, and now Joe's going to talk about this one and Mary's going to talk about that slide. And it gets really distracting. So an investor pitch, you're generally speaking, you're going to be by yourself and maybe with one other person, and you're going to know the deck front to back. You can have other people from your team that are in the room, but generally speaking, it's going to be the CEO or founder that's going to be delivering the whole pitch themselves. So what helped me sell my product, whenever I was working with a group, I thought that there were going to be certain benefits to some of our products that, because I came from my perspective, I'll give you an example. We're developing a heated mouse pad right now. I thought it was going to be for people that were sitting at a desk tray, either in an office or a factory type setting. And we started going out into the world and actually, bringing a prototype with them. And the office people started saying, actually, I want this at home. Well, why do you want it at home? I want it for gaming, because I sit in a cold basement with a hoodie on, for hours at a time, and my mouse hand gets really, really cold. And that completely changed what direction we were heading in with our product. And now, you know, we're heading into our first production run with a heated mouse pad, and it's going to be targeted at gamers. So, and that kind of came out of not only working with my team in Message Map, but also with you know, going out and reaching out to customers. So that's just an example of something that helped us sell a product overall. We will do the Message Map process again with my team, and we'll probably have one that's directed at different audiences in this case. So I hope this answered your question. I think we're at the end of our session here. So I hope everybody got something that you need out of this. If not, you have my contact information, and feel free to reach out to us. So thank you.